What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, and we are back here with another Tottenham update video. We brought you the One Football update yesterday, and we told you that Harry Kane wants to leave Tottenham, as stated by David Ornstein. But now David Ornstein has come out and he stated that people around Kane are saying that he's going to stay for life now.
Yeah, a bit of a 180 really over the last 48 hours of Harry Kane. Everyone was really quite depressed and pretty much resigned to Kane leaving after Ornstein said he said there's a consensus that Kane among people he's spoken to, that Kane would want to leave this summer, as he doesn't see the club progressing, but unlikely to leave due to the fact that Levy will demand around 120 million. He doesn't see anyone stumping up that kind of cash. However, yesterday, he now on his Athletic podcast, he states that he's spoken to quite a few contacts in the last 24 hours who think that Harry Kane will be at Tottenham for the rest of his career. So quite a difference there to saying that Kane wants to leave. I guess maybe the two could coexist in the sense that Kane could want to leave, but he might be forced to stay due to the price tag we have on him, and or the fact that Kane doesn't quite mind staying at Spurs for the rest of his career. You know, he said in the past. Obviously, he has said in the past that as long as a club's progressing, he would want to be at Spurs. But he has also said in the past that he has looked at people like Totti and Gerrard and people like that, and has acknowledged what an amazing thing he thinks that is, to be at one club your whole career, and whatever you achieve at that club means more than achieving things anywhere else. So I guess there's two ways of looking at it. And I think if we do have a good end to the season, he probably won't be desperate to leave. Hopefully we do have a good end to the season, but it's just interesting to hear that different kind of take from Ornstein from different contacts over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, it's clear for everyone to see that he does love the club. I mean, there's no two ways about that. I can't see him as a guy that's going to kick up a fast, force a move, like Berbatov did, Gareth Bale did, all these kind of players did, to kind of force a move out the club. But it's interesting because a lot of people were calling out David Ornstein on Twitter for kind of backtracking on what he said, but he hasn't actually backtracked, has he? Because he's just said the general consensus and from what he's hearing. He's not actually giving us any actual concrete information, is he?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly. He hasn't exactly said that he heard from sources that Kane has expressed his desire to leave. All he said was there's a consensus among people he's spoken to that Kane would probably want to leave this summer, but that doesn't mean Kane has expressed a desire to leave, and he never really said that. He's also saying now he's not saying that Kane has expressed a desire to stay his whole career. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that from what his contacts is likely that Kane could stay at Spurs for the rest of his career. So I don't know. It is kind of interesting. He also went on to say where was that quote I just saw? He said that he would be open to leaving in a view of winning bigger trophies, but because of his love and commitment to Spurs, it is also likely that he stays at Spurs and tries to win trophies for Tottenham. So I guess it's positive in that sense, and I think in a sense of if he looks to move, people obviously he could move to City and there's PSG and whatnot, but in terms of would he move to United, for a team like Man United, as opposed to staying at Spurs? United are above us at the moment, and they have won a few amount of trophies recently, but I don't see Man United in terms of playing staff and the structure of the club and thinking they're much better than Tottenham. I don't see that at the moment, and they're probably a bigger club, but he's if he wants to leave to guarantee he's going to win some bigger trophies, I don't think he's it's I don't see him pushing a move from Spurs to go to Man United, only to a Man City or something like that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And David Ornstein was kind of hitting back at the people commenting on how he was flip-flopping his news the last couple of days. And he says, this one was specifically to a guy called Mike. So he says, "Thanks, Mike. And yes, I said from people I speak to, that's the consensus, but I don't think it will happen. And in today's pod, I said the same and added that many think he'll stay at Spurs his whole career. The 2 points are different and not abnormal in football or any other walks of life." So there you have it from the horse's mouth. So it could be either one at the end of the day.
I guess it depends if a team comes in for big money, and depends who that team is. And I think a lot depends. I think maybe in terms of the pandemic and something, maybe this summer might not be, it might be too soon for him. But I think he's a player. I think people underestimate. Like people, I think are concerned because like he's in his prime at the moment. He's like 27. He's banging the goals in. He's playing amazing football. And I think there's a question mark about how long this could last for. I think that question mark's always loomed over Kane ever since he broke into the team. It's like, how long is this going to last for? Like, is this just good form? Literally, I feel like even now people are like, oh, he's 27, 28. Like, by the time he hits 30, maybe we start slowing down a bit and like things like that. But I think he's the kind of player who takes care of himself so well, and he's got such professional and that work ethic about him that he could. I think
highly adaptable as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I really think he could go on to his mid 30s and continually keep going. A bit like how obviously he's not Ronaldo's level, but in terms of how Ronaldo has kept up his standards in terms of like goals scored and stuff like that up until now. He's 36. He's still banging the goals in. I believe Kane could be a similar kind of level. I reckon he could be 35 and be banging like 10, 15 goals a season and stuff like that easy.
Well, look at Jamie Vardy. Like he's 33.
Yeah, he's 33 and he relies on pace, unlike Kane, who doesn't rely on pace. So, and he's still banging the goals. So I think Kane, he could even get his big move at 30, I think.
Look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He just got recalled up to the Sweden
at
squad.
39. You think of Zlatan, right? Zlatan has scored more goals since turning 30 than before he was 30.
Yeah.
So, like, Kane, I believe, could easily be in that kind of bracket of player. I don't think he's that kind of player who will be slowing down as soon as he hits 30 or 31, like other players.
Do you still think, like,
he doesn't rely on that
explosiveness?
explosiveness?
Do you still think at the end of his contract at Spurs in 2024 he can still get a big move?
Yeah, 100%.
Of course he can, can't he?
100%. I think at 30 he could easily get, but maybe obviously we're not going to get like 100 million for him, but I think he'd easily get a big move at 30 and go on to have 3-4 really top years at a top club if things didn't work out at the end of his contract. So I don't see this whole big rush to get Kane to a big club while he's at his prime, because I think he's got many years left in him.
Yeah, and we wouldn't see that rush anyway as Tottenham fans.
Definitely not. Need him to stay.
But look, let's move on. There are these Gareth Bale comments that we need to talk about. Obviously, he came out yesterday with the Welsh FA and was speaking about his about Tottenham and about his loan move from Real Madrid and how he expects to go back to Real Madrid, and it caused a bit of an uproar within the Spurs fan base. I mean, some people were saying, oh, there's nothing much in it. Me and my brother had a bit of an argument on it on the live stream yesterday. But look, shall we play it and then we'll react to it?
Okay.
I always think when things aren't going too well at the club, it's nice to get away and especially mentally get away from the club environment. So yeah, definitely it can be a benefit. So yeah, the first thing we have to do now is focus on these couple of games for Wales, which is very important for us. And yeah, then we forget club life and concentrate on this.
And you've spoken quite a bit about how happy you've been at Spurs this season. Just kind of throwing it ahead to the summer, because obviously it is a big summer with the Euros. How much would you like to get next season sorted club-wise so that it's not a distraction for Wales and for the Euros?
No, it's no distraction for me coming into the Euros. I think the main reason I obviously came to Spurs this year was obviously I wanted to play football first and foremost, but going into Euros I wanted to be match fit. So yeah, the original plan was only to do a season at Spurs, and then yeah, after the Euros I still have a year left at Real Madrid, and yeah, as far as my plan obviously is to go back, and yeah, that's as far as I plan, to be honest.
So those are the Bale quotes.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of Spurs fans, including myself at the time, were calling it disrespectful to the club about how he kind of only came here to use it as a training ground for the Euros, to get match fit for the Euros, because we knew if he was staying at Real Madrid, he's not going to be getting match fit for the Euros, even though he probably would have gone anyway. But there's two ways we can look at it, you know what I mean? Because there's your way to look at it, there's my way to look at it. You want to explain your way?
Well, yeah, look, from what I can see from what he said, I pretty much think he was just being kind of vague, because I think we don't know whether we're taking the option. He doesn't know whether we're taking the option. He doesn't know whether he wants to be here next year yet. We don't, like, everything's up in the air at the moment. So it'll be silly. Like he's still contracted to Real Madrid and he does have a year left. That's just factually correct. So I don't see what else he can say other than, look, I'm going to go back to Madrid and that's as far as we've planned at the moment. There's nothing set in stone. We haven't offered him another year. He doesn't know whether we're going to offer him another year. I think we look silly if he comes out and says, I'm desperate to stay at Spurs next season and we don't offer him another year. year, and then he kind of has a bit of egg on his face. If that's the case, I would think that his agent is probably telling him, look, if they do ask you anything about Tottenham next year, just say the plans to go back to Madrid, and we'll see what happens. That's pretty much what he said. I didn't think there was much in it. The thing that did annoy me watching that back now is actually when he said it's nice to get away from the club environment, which is true, which I get, because where things have been a bit disastrous of late, and maybe his relationship with Mourinho is not going that great of late and stuff like that. That obviously it wasn't nice to hear him saying it's nice to get away when things aren't going well, but it's also important to remember this is a Wales press conference, not Spurs, so he is coming at it from a Wales perspective, and obviously from a Wales perspective he wants to be fully concentrated on Wales, if you know what I mean, and he wanted it on the qualifiers, so that's kind of what he's getting at.
Do you see it as disrespectful to say that? Maybe.
I mean, is it disrespectful? You could look at it that way. Is it disrespectful to say it's nice to get away from that? I think he's just being honest. I think probably, and he's just saying that at the moment, when having those kind of performances like against Arsenal and Zagreb over the past week, things have been really, really down at the club, and he's probably just like saying, like going away with the when things aren't going that well with the club, international break can be a nice kind of breakaway from that. And as I was saying, it's because it's a Wales press conference. He's kind of given he wants to give off the impression that he's fully concentrating on Wales, I feel, right now, and that's what he's trying to get across, I feel. So I think it's important to note that. But I think in terms of the comments he was making about next season,
just back on that comment about he's happy to get away. Like you'd never see like Harry Kane or someone of that ilk making those kind of comments.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. Because you're right. I don't think he would. He would make those kind of comments because he's just different in that sense. I guess a lot of it is revolving around how Bale is focused and what he's focused on, and I think he's more trying to give off the impression that he's like fully focused on these qualifiers and he's ready to go, more than he's really happy to be away from Tottenham. But he did kind of say when it can be a nice distraction when things aren't going well. So look, that wasn't the nicest thing to hear, but I don't think there was any malice or anything intended in what he was saying. But in terms of next season stuff, I don't know. I think people are reading way too much into that.
The next season stuff, look, I didn't have too much of a problem with it. I thought that him going back to Real Madrid is pretty standard, and then you make the decision there. Yeah, look, I might have overreacted a bit yesterday to those certain comments, but I also mentioned yesterday that it's not that really bothered me too much. It was the bit before then when he was saying. What was it now?
They want to be fit for the Euros.
It was the bit before then when he was saying that he came here first and foremost to get match fitness and to be fit for the Euros.
That's not what he said. He said I came here first and foremost to play football, and obviously I wanted to prove my match fitness and I wanted to be and then he paused and said I want to be fit for the Euros as well. Yeah. So it wasn't like...
So like I thought when you're saying that, like, why don't you say you came here to win a trophy at Tottenham or something, and then we think about the Euros or something like that. But look, at the end of the day, it is a Wales press conference, so I get why he's saying that, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm getting. I think that's lost in all this. That this is something that he's talking about Wales here. He's asked about Spurs, and obviously, but he wasn't there to talk about Spurs. He's there to give off the impression that he's fully focused on Wales. So that's why he was talking about getting fit for the Euros and stuff. Obviously, he mentioned that when he signed that one of his aims was to get fit for the Euros, and that was one of his aims. So this isn't a secret or anything that he wanted to be fully match fit when the Euros came about. But in terms of he also said first and foremost I wanted to play football again, and people are just glossing over that as if it wasn't said, basically. And people saying, oh, this proves he was just using Tottenham as a training camp and stuff. I don't know. I think that's a bit far fetched. I think people are reading a lot into that. That's how I saw it anyway. Look, I just thought a lot was made about very little. But I understand the frustration because the Gareth Bale stuff has, apart from a bit of form of late, hasn't really panned out as most of us would have hoped. There's a frustration that, is he giving his all? Is he fully focused on doing his best for Tottenham? Though that question is still very much up in the air. And I think there's a frustration with how the club is going generally. So that kind of all comes out when you see these kind of comments. And also, I feel like when you're reading the comments as opposed to listening to him say it, you can definitely take different things from it. Because when you're reading the comments just as text, it kind of comes across as like a statement which he's like saying, oh, I'm happy to go back to Madrid next year and I'm gonna fulfill my contract. That's not kind of what he's saying. If you just watch him saying it, I think you get a different impression.
Yeah, but look, I think that it's bad timing. I do think it's bad timing in terms of his performance at Arsenal, and he hasn't been able to get back into the side after that. Obviously, there's stories about him and Mourinho's relationship being slightly strained. So I think that all of this is slightly bad timing. And I think that when you look on the flip side of a player like Harry Kane, or a player of top professionalism and elite level players like Heung-min Son and Harry Kane, you would never see them kind of saying stuff like that without thinking about it too much. And they would always always say stuff about the club and always put the club in a positive light.
On the flip side, how often does Kane ever get questions about his happiness like Bale does? And also on the flip side, like people say it's bad timing and stuff, and I get that. But on the flip side, it's not, he didn't choose to hold this press conference. He's just told, like, you got to go in front of the press now. He's asked these questions. He's got to give answers.
Yeah.
And it's not like he timed his press conference. It was not like Danny Rose, where it's different to Danny Rose, where just before the season he went to the Sun and said, I want to say this.
Yeah, but he chooses what to say at the end of the day. You know what I mean? He could have easily said, first and foremost, I wanted to play football, potentially win a trophy for Tottenham, and then think about the Euros.
All right, he could have said, I want to win trophies for Tottenham. He didn't say that. He said enough of. He has said plenty of times how much he loves Tottenham. He doesn't. Does he have to say it every single time in his press conference? He has to say that. So look, is what it is for me. I think I get what people are reading into these comments. I do understand it, and I get the frustration. I just think people are reading too much of what they think is being said, especially when they read the comments as opposed to just listening to actually watching the video and watching him saying it.
I somewhat agree with you. And I think that people are reading too much into it. I read too much into it yesterday and definitely overreacted. And I think the majority of the Spurs fan base are overreacting, but it still doesn't leave the best taste in my mouth.
No, and it does. Even for me, it doesn't, because I'm a guy who we were desperate for this Bale thing to all pan out. I would love him to come out in this press conference and say, look, I'm loving it at Tottenham. I'm definitely going to be back next year and stuff. But it's just not how it works. That's not how the football world works. Unfortunately, it's not how when you're contracted to a team with another year left in your contract, it's just not as simple as him always going to be saying that every time, especially when it's near the end and it's all up in the air. The future's not certain. So I didn't expect him to say he's definitely going to be
back in November. I remember he did an interview for Wales and he was talking about Tottenham and how much he's loving being here and how much he loves the club and this is where he wants to be and stuff like that. And that was a Wales interview. So why is this one any different?
I don't know. I don't remember that one, but I can't remember. So I think maybe things are more uncertain now. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. Eric Lamela has been linked to Bologna, and the Bologna president has been speaking about him, hasn't he?
Yeah. So it was quite interesting. I think it's the director actually talking about Eric Lamela out of the blue, really, but because I didn't see any links to him. But apparently, so this is the quote. He said, "Lamela is one we are considering. We are trying to understand if there are any possibilities to get there. Certainly, should Orsolini leave, I think he's one of their top wingers. He said, should Orsolini leave, there would be no better substitute. So it looks like Lamela has got some admirers over in Italy.
He's got some admirers in North London as well. Don't you worry about that.
But we know that from his time in Italy, he's probably still looked at fondly, because it's probably still the best season of his career, that Roma season, to be honest. So he hasn't really done any better since he's come to Spurs. It was a while ago now, 2012, 2013. So. But he's probably looked at more fondly in Italy, and he's probably more suited to Serie A, the way he used to play back then. So I guess there are some suitors for Lamela, it seems.
Would you be happy to see him leave this summer?
Unfortunately, I just think it's gotten to a stage, as much as I love the way he plays, and I think he's a good asset when he's on the pitch, the injuries are just too much. I think they're just too much. They really are, and he can barely get 10 games a season, and we can't keep relying on him because he's too unreliable whether he's going to be on the pitch. And I do think he's a good player when he's available. I think he contributes well, especially of late, and I hope he can have a good end to the season. But if we get a good offer for him, I'd cash in. I would, because I think it frees up an extra space, gives us a bit of money to play with, and unfortunately, he just can't stay fit, and if it was 1 or 2 years, I would say, all right, give him more time. But it's been 7-8 years now. What can we do?
And his contract is running down, so it's kind of like the time this summer. You either offer him or you offer him out. You know what I mean? Offer him a new contract or offer him to another club. It's one or the other.
Yeah, and I thought he would be one of the ones that would be very struggling to sell. But if Bologna are willing to stump up some money between 10 and 15 million, I think we sell. I think we sell, unfortunately. It seems like they're very interested.
All right, and let's move on to the last story of the update, and we're talking about Ben Davies, as he has suffered apparently a significant injury out on Wales duty. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's what the assistant manager Robert Page said. It was a significant injury from Ben Davies, which isn't good timing. Well, I guess you could argue it's not terrible timing, seeing as Reguilon is actually okay after his injury. But
no injury is good timing, you know what I mean?
But yeah, it's not great. It's not great timing. But I guess during international break, you'll have the international break to recover. They're saying he's going to be out between 2 and 3 weeks. So it looks like he'll probably miss the Newcastle Man United game and maybe be back for that Everton game on the 17th of April, but that's a big blow for him. But at least now we're only playing 1 game a week, seeing as we're out of Europa, so it's not the biggest deal. So Reggie should be able to cope with 1 game a week. But it's not nice that he's got that injury. And if we do get an injury to Reguilon, then we are in a bit of trouble in terms of that left-back spot now.
All right, so that is the Tottenham update. We spoke about Harry Kane staying for life. We spoke about those Gareth Bale comments. We spoke about Eric Lamela potentially leaving to Bologna in the summer. And we spoke about that Ben Davies injury out for 2 to 3 weeks. That is your Tottenham update today. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.